You know, sometimes life throws you into situations so crazy, you just can't believe it's real, like the time a quiet housekeeper named Grace stole her billionaire boss's Ferrari to save a dying kid. Yeah, that actually happened. It all started on a gloomy morning at the Wexler estate. Grace was just finishing Ethan's breakfast, little 5-year-old Ethan, usually a chatterbox, but that day he was just quiet, not even a peep. His skin was hot to the touch, and suddenly he just collapsed right there at the table like a rag doll. Grace caught him before he hit the floor. His lips were tinged blue, barely breathing. Panic hit her like a freight train. She shouted for help, but the mansion was eerily empty. The cook was at the guest house, the butler out running errands, and to make matters worse, the emergency intercom was dead, under maintenance, they said. She tried calling the estate's emergency line voicemail. Called 911 15 minutes away. 15 minutes felt like an eternity when a child's life is slipping away. Grace looked out the window and saw the yellow Ferrari, Nicholas Wexler's prize convertible, sitting like a jewel on the driveway. She wasn't allowed near it, not even 10 feet, but Ethan's life was on the line. Without a second thought, she grabbed the boy, laid him gently in the passenger seat, buckled him in with trembling hands, threw herself behind the wheel still in her maid uniform and yellow rubber gloves, and slammed on the gas. The tires screamed on the marble driveway as the gates opened automatically and the Ferrari roared into the street. She didn't care about cameras, alarms, or rules. All she cared about was getting Ethan to the hospital before it was too late. The city skyline blurred ahead as Grace sped down the highway, heart hammering so loud she thought it might burst. Ethan was slumped next to her, his little chest barely rising. She kept whispering to him, begging him to hold on. Stay with me. Baby, just stay with me. She ran a red light, swerved past trucks, nearly lost control on a sharp curve. Horns blared, people yelled, but she didn't stop. Because Grace wasn't just a maid, she was a mother in every sense, the only one who could save Ethan. Back at the mansion, the security cameras caught the Ferrari speeding out. The staff freaked. The head butler called Nicholas, who was in the middle of an important board meeting downtown. Sir, your Ferrari. It's been stolen. Nicholas nearly dropped his phone when he heard the thief's name, Grace, the quiet, soft-spoken maid who never made a fuss. It seemed impossible. He barked orders to call the police. Meanwhile, on the road, Ethan suddenly convulsed in the passenger seat. Grace screamed, fought the steering wheel, clutched his hand tighter than ever, tears streaming down her face. Don't do this to me, Ethan. We're almost there. You hear me. Sirens wailed ahead. Not behind her, the emergency entrance was just a few hundred feet away. Grace swerved in, slamming the Ferrari to a stop across 2 lanes. Doctors and nurses rushed out. She threw open the door, barely able to speak through the panic. He's not breathing. Help him. One nurse glanced at the woman behind the wheel in a maid uniform, yellow gloves still in hand, face pale and soaked in sweat, frozen in shock. A police officer arrived seconds later and barked orders. Grace obeyed, legs buckling as they cuffed her despite her protests. I didn't steal it. I saved him. Tears poured down her face as she stood on the curb, wrists bound, watching the medics rush Ethan inside. Meanwhile, Nicholas stormed into the hospital, fury radiating off him in waves. He ignored the fire zone sign, parked his Mercedes like a man possessed, and thundered into the ER. Where's my son? He demanded. The nurse at reception hesitated, then said, Your maid brought him. She's in holding. Nicholas's anger faltered the moment he saw Ethan hooked up to monitors, tubes, barely clinging to life. The doctor came out and quietly explained it was a rare allergic reaction, aggressive and fast. If Ethan had arrived 5 minutes later, it would have been too late. Nicholas turned away from the glass, face pale, heartbreaking. For the first time that morning, he wasn't angry. He was scared and ashamed. He was escorted down the hall to the holding area where Grace sat cuffed, exhausted, eyes red and swollen. She looked up when he entered. They just stared at each other for a long, heavy moment. I didn't mean to steal it, she whispered, voice cracking. He stopped breathing. I panicked. I called, but no one answered. The ambulance was too far. I didn't know what else to do. I buckled him in. I talked to him the whole way. I swear I didn't mean to. Nicholas held up a hand. Stop. Her breath caught. You saved him. She gasped. Is he okay? Because of you, yes. Grace collapsed, tears flowing freely. Nicholas turned to the officers. Take the cuffs off. They hesitated, but obeyed. Grace rubbed her wrists and stood shakily. If you want to fire me, I understand, she said. He shook his head, eyes softening. I'm not firing you. I'm promoting you. The news broke out like wildfire the next day. Maid saves millionaire's son with Ferrari rescue. Headlines blazed everywhere. Nicholas held a press conference at the hospital steps, Grace standing quietly beside him in a simple black dress, hair neat. He spoke from the heart, no script, no polish. I built a billion-dollar company believing in calculated, strategic decisions. But yesterday, a woman in my home made the most important decision of her life, not with strategy, but love. He paused, looking at Grace. She broke every rule but saved my son. I will never forget that. He announced that Grace was no longer just a maid. She was Ethan's full-time caregiver and head of their new child wellness foundation. Gasps rippled through the crowd. And it's not enough, Nicholas continued. I've donated $5 million to launch the Grace Initiative, supporting emergency training for household staff nationwide. Because every second counts, and no one should be punished for saving a life. He raised his hand to quiet the reporters, voice sharp and clear. If you think the people cleaning your floors or watching your children are beneath you, you're the one who needs help. I nearly lost my son before I realized the most important person in his life wasn't in my boardroom, she was in my kitchen. The story went viral instantly. Grace's life changed. She got her own car, an apartment near the estate, helped design Ethan's homeschool program, and became an advocate for working women everywhere. And Ethan? He never stopped asking for Miss Grace, because to him, she wasn't just a maid, she was the woman who drove through fear, judgment, and sirens just to save him. So what do you think? Was Grace a thief or a hero? Where do you draw the line between breaking rules and doing what's right? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about justice, loyalty, and what it really means to protect someone. If this story hit you like it did me, don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life tales that surprise and inspire. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.